Dear, your assertion that I have problems with lacking comprehension and that also my research is lacking, the fact that you have written about 5 different comments all over the place, all over my comment section, is proof that my research obviously triggered you. It triggered insecurity and also an ego bruise. It's extremely easy for the ego to be bruised when you have been fed a lie. It's an ego boost saying that modern day Africa is the motherland when it in fact is not. And so the fact that I've proven that it's not the motherland, it caused you great mental anguish. But we're going to get through this. I get it that the false version of history or the narrative that you are used to is completely different from the narrative that I have been presenting in my videos. But don't be angry with the messenger. You should actually be angry with the colonizers for giving you a false version of history. All I'm doing is merely setting the lies straight that we've all been fed. I'm not the enemy here. I'll do my best to address everything you said in your comments. I would first like to address the very last thing you said, because this is going to be an easy segue into everything else that you mentioned. At the very bottom in red, you spoke about the specific tomato varieties that are native to West Africa, which made their way to the Americas prior to Columbus' exploration of the Americas. Africans did, in fact, come to America prior to Columbus. Early Africans actually floated on logs, tree logs, to South America. Do you see that, dear? This is how they came to America, on tree logs. But after those tree logs brought them to the Americas, the South American Indians, which are my people, and they're your people as well. I say this because the LDNA that you said that you have, it originates in America, which you disagree with. Pretty much everybody in West Africa, just about, and then those who went east and also south in the Bantu expansion are actually originally from America, and none of you are actually Africans. This is just what the colonizers named you. So don't be offended by the evidence that I'm showing you because you think that you're Africans. We'll get to that. So I'll say, those of us who are Bantu people, we are the South American Indians, and we introduced to the actual Africans who have E1B1B DNA. We Bantu people have A00, we have E1B1A, and of course the women have L DNA. I'm not going to get into the complexities of us actually being gods and being from the Sirius star system, the Dogon, yada yada yada. I'll save that for another video. But believe it or not, different DNA types are still being discovered in America. So after the South American Indians, which are the Bantu people, they also taught them how to make boats or canoes out of tree trunks, and then they also taught the Africans how to sail up and down the rivers. They also taught them how to make oars so they can move their vessels. So now let's talk about these tomatoes that Africans did not bring to America, and I'll tell you why. Because tomatoes originated in South America, where they floated over to on logs, and they were introduced to Africa via trade. And believe it or not, this is actually on Google. I'm shocked that they actually told the truth about something. Because of the heat in Africa, the different varieties that are currently in modern day Africa, they actually ended up developing as a result of the heat, the hot heat in modern day Africa. This is exactly what this says here. So you have an African Togo tomato. It's a pink one. You have an African brown tomato, which is originally from West Africa. It's a copper-toned, juicy variety of tomato. And then it also says that there's a snake tomato in southwestern Nigeria. But dear, I've never seen any of those tomatoes. I'm not going to doubt that they're in America. They probably are, because there's a lot of people who call themselves Africans who live in America. So they're probably there. But me personally, I've never seen them before. Long story short, those tomatoes or tomatoes only exist because of the tomatoes that come from South America. Are we clear on that? The comment in yellow, you said there are also a few samples of EM2 found in America before Columbus due to West African exploration. We already shot down this West African exploration thing, or this African exploration thing, because they were floating on logs prior to South American Indians teaching them how to make canoes, oars, and how to sail. So we don't even need to address that. But for the sake of those who have never seen my other videos, we'll go into it briefly. The colonizers claim that modern day Egypt is actually ancient Kemet, do they not? Okay, so let's take a look at their DNA. It clearly states that the DNA of those who are in modern day Egypt is R1b, G2A, and mtDNA haplogroups H and K. Let's match that with the DNA of the ancient pharaohs of ancient Kemet, or ancient Egypt, as people say. That E1B1A M2 haplogroup that you were speaking of, that's actually the haplogroup of the ancient pharaohs of Kemet. And I just showed you the people that are in modern day Africa today who were considered to be the Egyptians. It's not a match. It's just not. But whose DNA does it match? It matches people. It says the Igbo people, which you also asserted in another comment that I'm saying that people who are Igbo in Yoruba are not Hebrews. I've never said that. In fact, I have several videos showing Igbo and Yoruba people that they are in fact Hebrews. So I'm not sure which video you're listening to, or if you're even actually listening. But the Niger Congo speaking peoples, which are the Bantu people, of course, we all have this exact same DNA, dear. Here is a person who's Bantu from America who actually traced his ancestry to the Pharaoh Ramses of Kemet, ancient Kemet. My, oh my, what is that DNA doing all the way in America when they claim that modern day Africa is the motherland? And to show you that he is not an isolated case, actually, the majority of so-called African Americans' DNA is the exact same as his, the DNA that you mentioned in your comment, E1B1A EM2. Imagine that. I hope you're sitting down, dear, because guess who else's DNA that matches? The DNA matches pharaohs of ancient Kemet. Yes, E1B1A M2. That's Bantu DNA, dear. That's Bantu DNA. Yes, the Bantu people that are in modern day Africa are actually from America because you have the same DNA as the ancient pharaohs of Kemet, which ancient Kemet is in America. So is ancient Ethiopia. So is the ancient kingdom of Ghana. All of the ancient civilizations that they claim to be in modern day Africa actually were in America before they moved everything over to modern day Africa and said that's where everything happened when it didn't happen over there. So now let's discuss the connection between the female L and the E1B1A, which is the male DNA haplogroup type. Keep in mind that the Y chromosome, which is the male's DNA, the E1B1A, it evolved from the double X female DNA chromosome. The Y degeneration, which is the male's DNA, is a mutated or degraded version of an ancestral chromosome that eventually stopped pairing with the double X, which is the women's DNA. More specifically, the L. Now, the E1B1A EM2 comes from the L DNA, and that's exactly what this is talking about here. It comes from the female Eve L DNA. When the male's Y stopped interacting with the double X, this is what it evolved into. And guess whose DNA it does not match, dear? The actual Africans, because they have E1B1B. And their people come from the people that are in modern day Egypt and also the Europeans, the Caucasoids. The people in the Middle East, those are all from the same family line. The people in Rome, they all come from the African DNA. But the people in America do not have that African DNA. In fact, if you look right here, it clearly states that the African E1B1B DNA is not a major haplogroup in the Americas. You need to know that Africans were very primitive people. They were bushmen that were primitive, who lived by hunting and foraging. They didn't have crops. They foraged, dear. They wore grass skirts, dear, before they floated on logs to South America, and they were civilized by the South American Indians. The South American Indians invented cotton-based clothes. Why? Because cotton only grew in America. And so instead of them wearing these animal skins and grass skirts, South American Indians actually introduced them to cotton-based clothing. This is how they started wearing clothing. In fact, the royals in modern-day Africa started wearing cotton-based clothing through trading with South American Indians. It was the South American Indians that taught Africans everything they know. Some stayed and joined our tribes and helped us continue to build up America, but a lot of them went back to modern day Africa and they employed everything they learned, including house building and everything else that they learned from the South American Indians, and they put that in modern day Africa. But also a lot of the South American Indians went to modern day Africa with the Africans, because it was the mound builders who were the only ones that actually knew pyramid building technology. They didn't pass that on to anyone else. Only special people could know how to do that. And that was only the South American Indians who knew how to build the pyramids. I certainly hope that this cleared up the misconceptions you expressed in the comments section on YouTube. If you have any further questions or comments, make them in the comment section. And I invite you to, and anyone else who has questions or wants to challenge my knowledge or my research. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. And I'll see you in the next video.